Hi everyone. Welcome to day number 9 of my self-quarantine for the coronavirus at home. Not sick at all, but they're just asking us to stay home, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So today is the day that I finally got enough motivation to do a video about the gear that I took on the AT before I finally put it all away and organized in the closet. I did start my through hike, unlike most people, a little bit early. I was trying to stay ahead of the bubble that starts in March. So my start date was February 21st. And because of that, I was expecting to hike through winter conditions. So some of my gear is winter specific. And I was going to swap that equipment out for some lighter spring and summer gear once it warmed up a little bit, but that did increase my base weight. And speaking of base weights, a lot of the gear that I purchased was ultra light gear. And I did that because I wanted to have as light a base weight as possible. I figured that would only help increase my chances of successfully completing the through hike. So my base weight, including all of the winter gear, was 18.5 pounds. I thought it'd be fun to do kind of a combo video in that I'll go through my gear as I pull them out of my pack. So not only will you get to see what gear I brought and what I thought about it and how it performed, but you'll also see how I packed that stuff within my pack. And with all of that, let's see what's in my pack. Okay, jumping right in with the pack first. This is the Arc Haul Zip by Zpacks. And I purchased it because I liked the idea originally that it has a zipper all the way around. So essentially you can unzip it like a suitcase and get into something in the middle of your pack should you need to. I just thought that was something that I might enjoy in the few occasions that I didn't pack my pack correctly. Usually you pack everything you're gonna need right on the top. Well, it turns out not once did I use that feature, so not that great. I did also though like the idea that I had a second pouch out here that was water resistant, if not waterproof. A lot of the packs, most of them have mesh right there rather than a solid zippered pouch. It turns out that that pack is not as waterproof as I had thought. Anything that I had especially pushed right up against the pack right here, it got moist for sure. So after a heavy rainstorm, I did have to go in and pull out everything, let everything dry out, which got old after a while. I modified that just a bit. You'll see how I did that. Otherwise, I did like this pack. It was nice and light. I did enjoy the hip belt. It functioned very well otherwise. Overall, I was pleased with it. I would not be opposed to trying out a different pack to see how I like it, but that's a pretty pricey item, so I'll probably be sticking with this one for a while. Up next is my sit pad, which I normally clipped right to the top of my pack so that when I sat down for lunchtime, bloop, could just pop it out and have easy access to it. I am not certain that I would bring this in warm conditions. I'm not sure it's necessary, but especially when it's cold out, you do want something to sit down on to insulate yourself from the cold ground or the cold rock or piece of wood you're sitting on. So this is Therm-a-Rest Z-Seat. Highly recommend. I liked it, no problems with it. Let's dive into the other things that I kept in the outside of my pack first. For water, I drank out of clean water bottles, and I had 2 smart water bottles. I usually kept a spare right here in the outside pocket. I normally only carried 1 liter at a time, so that was usually empty. But at night, I did fill up a 2nd liter so that I had some water to drink for dinner and for breakfast. And I would always fill this one up at night too, so that I did not have to get water in the morning and I was ready to go. I fashioned this little fancy thing that I was pretty proud of. This I just bought as a piece, and I just shoved the little straw portion right through a smart water bottle cap, and the straw would just go right down in there. And I did that because I constantly found myself saying, gee, I wish I just had a little straw on this thing so I wouldn't have to take it out all the time. And I tried it out, it worked really well. I forget the person that manufactured this. I know Zpacks makes a similar one. This was an independent guy. I'll see if I can remember his name and include that information, but this worked out really well, keeping it right handy. I also would keep a smaller little bottle. I use this to put my electrolyte mix in, just because I would put this in my bear bag at night because I assumed it would have some smell to it because of the electrolyte mix. I was a bit of a cautious person when it came to bear bagging, and so I wanted to keep smell and the flavor apart. So this I would leave in my tent, but this bottle, since it smelled, I would put up in the bear bag. Okay, let's look at the other side pocket. First thing I would keep in here is my water filter for easy access. Sawyer water filter. And on top of this, I have a water filter adapter that just screws on where normally a cap would be. And that would allow me to, if I can get a water bottle. This adapter is pretty neat because I would have my dirty water bag on top of here, which you'll see in just a second. And I would use this adapter to screw the two together. You do have to unscrew just a little bit to allow some air flow or else it won't work, but then you can just squeeze right down into the bottle and you're not having to aim for the bottle. This I would be sure to not freeze. This will ruin and not work for you at all if it freezes, so you have to be really careful about that. The next thing in that same side pocket is my dirty water bag. I think this is pronounced CNOC for the brand, but I can't say for certain. This is the older version. In the newer version, they have these two pieces attached to where you can't lose them, but it wasn't a big deal just keeping track of them. And I really, really liked this item. What's cool is you can slide that thing off and you've got a big opening for collecting water. So I could just do this and go swoosh and fill up the whole bag a lot of times. And then you just refold it. Slide that thing back on. Take this cap off. Make sure the flow is going the correct direction. And again, the water bottle was right here. So then it's really, really easy to, and fast, to filter your water with this thing. Okay, next item. This is just, it's originally supposed to be a ground sheet, and I decided I didn't need a ground sheet, so I wasn't using it for that. But what I did use it for, let me see if I can stand up here, is when I was in the shelter, I would put this underneath my air pad to protect it from any splinters or any roughness from the wood. And once it gets warmer, I also sometimes throw this down just to sit on the ground if it's a little muddy especially. So it's multi-purpose. And the last item I would keep in the side of my pack is a new product that I got just before going on my thru hike and hadn't really tested it out yet, but I kind of like this. This is an accessory to my tent that's also made, by Zpacks. It's just one little stake here. And if you watch some of my videos, you can see it in action. But essentially you just use this to tie to the tent, and then you stake out this part in the ground further over. And what it does is it allows you to get some extra space, some headroom, at a point where it would normally just go from the tent to the ground. Now with this extra stake, you're actually bringing it up and out, creating more headroom right here, and then stake it down. Now you can do the same thing with a stick. You just have to find a stick. And it turns out that I did find a stick for the other side because I enjoyed the extra interior space so much. But this thing weighs only 1 ounce. I figured for 1 ounce, it's worth a shot, and it worked out pretty good. Okay, I put this on my left shoulder strap. This is a cell phone case made by Mountain Hardware, and I keep an iPhone 10 in there. It zips right up. I had no problem with rain getting in there at all, and we had plenty of heavy rain, so I can say that this is pretty much waterproof. Really, really like this. I also started putting some candy bars in here. Fits 2 candy bars very conveniently. You could also do sunglasses, but if you put too much in here, what happens is it makes it harder to unzip and slide your phone out. It gets kind of tight. And I had more of a runny nose than anyone else. I had some bad allergies at the beginning, so Normally I would keep this little rag. It's just a little washcloth I bought from REI. I would keep it on there for sweat. It was my sweat rag, but it turned into my snot rag in the wintertime. Worked out really well. Okay, hip belt pockets. I do have two. I do like these from Zpacks. Were not waterproof, I will say that for sure. I did get dampness in here. Sometimes I would get a little standing water in the bottom, but not much. But I wish they were more water resistant than they are. One thing I don't like about these is to close these. It's a two-handed ordeal because you can't really, even if it's on, you just need a second hand to pull it taut so that it zips properly. And in my right hip belt, I would keep, ta-da, a pair of dish gloves from Target. They make them in black, made me look less like a freak, I figure. I bought these because plastic is just about the only thing that is going to be waterproof. Everything else is going to wet out eventually. So you'll see the other gloves I wore, well, actually, let me get them out of here since I'm talking about it. I would keep these in the other hip belt pocket. These gloves are possum down gloves from Zpacks. And so in the cold, I would wear the possum down gloves with the dish gloves on top. So that would give me a little warmth on top of some waterproofness. And that combo worked pretty darn good. I will say when it was really cold, 40 and below, first of all, disclaimer, I have the coldest hands of any person I have ever met, so I'm not a great judge, but this was not warm enough for winter conditions. But you keep moving, the faster you move, the warmer your hands get. So that was my glove combo. Next time, I did some research on this stuff. I may keep these for a liner. I have a second pair of gloves that are a little thicker. They're supposedly waterproof, but just like I was mentioning, they're not. But I might layer those over these, and rather than the dish gloves, which would then be too small, I'll buy a second pair of waterproof mittens that I'll put on top of that 2-glove combo, and I think that would be warmer. My best guess, if you really need warm winter gloves, I found boiled down mittens. Have great reviews online. Haven't used them. Intrigued. They are pretty expensive, but because of the boiled wool, it makes them extremely water resistant and really, really warm. I would like to try those at some point, but I feel like for the AT, it might be a bit of an overkill given how short winter lasts, but they're also supposed to be a little heavier, but something to think about. Okay, back to this pocket. I would keep my little Zpacks wallet in here. Once we would hike in the morning before the light came up, the sun came up, but once it was time to put the headlamp away, I would pop it in here. I have to look what this is because it doesn't even have the brand on here, but it worked well. I took a self-defense class before coming on the trail just to make myself feel better, and one of the tools he said that you could keep on you is a little pen, great for stabbing out eyeballs should the need arise. I will say I felt very safe on the trail. It was more of just a thing to make me feel better, but I mean, why not? I also used it to write postcards, so why not keep it right there just in case. And the final thing I kept in here, there were some items that I needed to use on a daily basis potentially, and I didn't want to have to dig in my pack, so I would keep a little scissors and a little, this is Leukotape. So if I was getting a hot spot or a blister on my foot, it was right here. I could just stop and take care of that. Also, in case I was getting a blister and I wanted to pop it, I would keep a safety pin right there. I did keep those items in a little snack size baggie so that they wouldn't get damp when it rained. Okay, I also would keep a little, this is leftover from my lifeguard years, just a little whistle in case, you never know. And in addition to my possum down gloves, I would also keep my little beanie in this left side hip belt pocket. This is from Zpacks. It's just a little fleece hat. Light, but I found it fully sufficient. And then I kept some other toiletry items in here. Let's see. Hand sanitizer, check. Oh, I have specific sunscreen for my face. Yes, I am a girly girl. Then I have less expensive sunscreen for my arms and stuff. I use chafing cream. Well, I don't normally use it, but I did have to use it once, so I'm glad it was in my hip belt pocket. I'm trying to remember what I use. I forget the brand name, but I will put it on there so you know what I use. I find this, while it's not exactly made for chafing, to be really nice in texture, really silky smooth. It doesn't feel gross at all or oily. I had a little sample size of Aquaphor because with wiping my nose repeatedly, it also got a little raw. One spare set of batteries for my headlamp, because when your headlamp goes off, the batteries die. The last thing you want to be doing is digging in your bag when it's dark, so that was always right there ready. And that whole straw combination I showed you earlier for my water bottle, I would keep a separate cap, because when I put it in my tent at night, I did want to put on a cap so it was watertight. The problem with that straw thing is it does leak if it sits sideways or something, so you have to be careful with that. These are generic, I think, Tylenol. I know most people like to use ibuprofen on the trail. I've heard it's a little extreme and it affects your circulation, which is pretty important for recovery. So I went with these. Anyway, I just keep them in my hip belt pocket, so that way if I need them during the hike, if I have a couple hours left and I'm hurting, you have easy access to it. And the other thing I would keep in my right side were some extra snacks. Throughout the day, I would try to have, in addition to my lunch, 4 different snacks. So usually that was 2 candy bars, some kind of sweet candy, and I don't know, usually a bar or something in there. And then right on the hip belt, behind my left hip belt pocket, I had this little sack, custom made by the same guy that made this. It houses what I like to call God's gift to females. This is a female urinary device. This one is the P style, and it allows you to urinate while standing up and not dropping your drawers to show everybody and expose it to the cold, which is fantastic. That has got to be one, if not my very favorite piece of gear, to be quite honest. And I would always keep, my chapstick in here, make sure it has sunscreen. O'Keeffe's is by far my favorite chapstick and lotion. Okay, and let's dive into the outer pocket of my pack here. So I did carry a Garmin InReach Mini, not necessary for the AT. However, what I did enjoy about it was whenever I did not have cell phone service at a shelter, I could still text loved ones via the Garmin, which was really nice. And given that they came out with this mini version, it's really pretty light, so why not? And since I would use these things during the day sometimes, I would keep these at top. I didn't bring sunglasses to begin with, but I did pick some up along the way, along with a little croaky band. So that would sit towards the top, along with my trusty sun visor. I think this was a running brand. And what else? I did keep a neck buff. This is fleece one that I usually use for skiing, but on really windy, cold days, that was a lifesaver. And I also used it with my sleeping bag. I really liked that it would help keep the cold off my neck. And I also kept in here an empty bag for trash. And I would pack, I'll show you how I packed my food in a little bit, but I would keep all of my lunches in these little quart-size bags, and so each day I would be sure to put my lunch right in the outside so I didn't have to dig in my pack for it. And I would also keep, this is just a little food accessory bag. It has my little, well, I guess I need to show you what's in it. Okay. At night I would put this in the bear bag too. But during the day I would put it here for lunch. I would pick up some of these Sometimes I would take an avocado or whatever. You never know when you need salt and pepper. This is my cute little knife. Very teeny tiny, very sharp, does a good job. I think this was a Darwin recommendation at one point. Sea to Summit spoon. And in cutting ounces and grams, I have 1/4 of a bandana just to use as a little napkin. And then I had these plastic bowls and plates that you kind of folded and snapped together that I never used, but I did want to use this. I wanted a little cutting board to use with my knife because if I had like summer sausage, I don't want to cut my hand off. So I just cut a piece off and it worked really well. I would also keep a grocery bag or two because when it did rain, like I said, the things in here that could get damp did get damp. And so after a while, I started putting those items in a little baggie in here if I knew it was going to rain. So it was less that I had to dry out. I also kept right here within easy reach my rain gear. I had Outdoor Research Helium, the regular helium, not the Helium 2 jacket from Outdoor Research. And this was actually a men's size small, I guess, because I bought it for color, which I do with a lot of my stuff. So this version does have pit zips. Did not like the pit zips in the end. The one time I used them, it soaked my whole side, so that was when I stopped using that. Pockets are good, except when you have your hip belt on right here, the pocket does extend down here, so I would take my little snot rag and keep it in my pocket, but I had to be sure it was high enough up above my hip belt so that I could actually get it in there. Has a chest zip, cool. I really liked the brim of this hat. It actually has a pretty substantial brim. You do not have to wear a hat underneath it because it does it just fine on its own. So since this was a men's, the sleeves were a little long on me. Not the end of the world, but what I did like was the hem, the bottom hem did extend all the way below my hips, so I got a little extra coverage right there. And these are the Helium pants. They have a little zip on the bottom. That's pretty handy. I will say that I was overall pretty pleased with this combo, but when it was raining, like pouring for a very long time, I did get wet anyway. But in the winter anyway, it seems like rain gear helps keep you warm above anything else. So, okay, yes, you may be damp under there. It may have leaked in. It may have saturated your rain gear at some point, but at least you're still staying relatively warm. I wouldn't be opposed to trying a different brand in the future, but these worked pretty well. Okay, what else do we have? Yes, I brought waterproof socks. Oh, it's highly controversial. These are Dex Shell. I do have a shorter version that are like crew, but these were only 1 ounce more, so I went and brought the calf height ones. At first, they worked out really well. They kept my feet nice and dry in light rain over several days, so I was pleased with that. But when it was heavy rain or we were walking through just a saturated trail with water running down it, they do eventually soak through. They did still keep my feet dry, warm, which was nice because they're almost like wearing a wetsuit at that point. But I did notice I only had 2 blisters on my big toes at the base of them over the month that I hiked, and it was when I was wearing these socks. I don't think that I would bring them again in the future. I think that my feet probably would have stayed warm enough without them, so I think these are not coming along next time. And Microspikes. Yes, I did bring Microspikes. In my mind, I would say it only takes 1 fall to end your hike. And so, since I was starting in winter conditions, I was going to bring these puppies, even though they weighed an extra 12 ounces. I was ready to send them home. I was very excited about it, but my through hike ended right when that was going to happen. But I used them twice. I don't think, even if I was starting in the end of February like I did, I don't think that I would bring them again. They were nice to have, but what I found was the trail conditions vary quite a bit. So I used them in a certain section and then I had to take them off again pretty quickly. So the ice didn't last very long. The second point that I did use them, it was right after Klingman's Dome. I heard from someone else that it's usually pretty icy right there at all times. I guess there's not much sun hitting it there. And there was a long patch of ice. I was very happy to have these at the time, but the other members of our group that did not have micro spikes made it through safely. They just had to go a little slower, so they were about 10 minutes behind us. So I don't know, most people say you don't need them. I brought them along just to be on the safe side. I have hiked on ice without them before and it's pretty scary, but given that the trail conditions change so quickly, I think they will probably not be coming next time. You can probably do pretty well without them. Yes, this is my poop bag. It is at the bottom of my pack because I would take care of my business in the morning and I wouldn't need it for the rest of the day. So I have a gallon Ziploc. I came up with what I believe still to be an ingenious idea. I put a little string on there because then when I use the privy, I can just hang this around my neck and I don't have to put this bag on the disgusting ground or try to hold it while, you know, cleaning up. I did have a bag with some tampons in here because I'm a girl. I did bring some toilet paper. Whenever I went somewhere, I would usually just borrow some extra toilet paper, roll it up and take it with me. And if you do that consistently, you'll probably be pretty good. I'm mildly paranoid, so I brought a whistle in here because what if I had to go poop in the woods and what if I got lost? Not necessary, but it wasn't hardly weighed anything. I brought, these are dog poop bags, by the way, these black ones. I brought a bag just with some extra quart bags in here. Just quart bags. And I do that because if I poop in the woods, I know they say that you can leave the toilet paper in the hole. What I don't like about that is if the topsoil erodes and your toilet paper is right on top, well, guess what everybody's staring at then? Your toilet paper. So I do pack my toilet paper out, but if I need to do that, I'll put it in one of these and I keep it in the black bag so that nobody has to look at used TB. And then I have my little, this is a dirt on this, okay? Just dirt. This is my trowel, Duce's Spades. I think it's the second, yeah, the Duece, number 2 it says on there. It has little serrated edges so that you can hopefully cut through any roots that you encounter, but this works really well. And now to go inside the main compartment of the pack. I did go ahead and put a pack liner in here, and I'm glad I did so because, again, in the rain, there is dampness inside the bag. So anything you don't want to get wet, be sure it's in a liner. The pack liner I really liked. It's from Lightsmith. It's Nyloflume, and I like it because it's nice and thin and quiet. Now this one, you can see how crinkly it is, but that's because I accidentally left it in the sun in my car and it wasn't a big fan. It got a little crinkly and loud, so I'm going to be replacing that one with some new ones. And right in the top of my pack, I have a tip from Scott. I have 4 things of clothes in here in the top, and I just cram them down in between the other items. But if you leave just a little sleeve hanging out for each of them, that way, whenever you are ready to use them, all you do is you grab the sleeve and you pull it out. So, item number 1, my down puffy. My puffy is the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisper. Again, I buy things for color, but I really like this coat. Got the sporty orange interior lining. It's really light fill, but it was pretty warm. I liked someone's comment when I was trying to figure out my layering system. And I was saying, well, is this thin jacket warm enough? Well, it's not meant to keep you warm. This is meant to be part of a layering system with other layers underneath it. So this is just your non-waterproof layer. I only wear this in camp because you do not, well, if it was totally dry, I suppose you could wear it hiking if you wanted, but you don't want to get this sweaty or wet because since it's down, any dampness will compromise the warmth of this item. So usually I would just pop this on whenever we stopped for lunch if I wasn't soaking wet from rain, or once I got to camp. Item number 2. This was a controversial item for me because it's not a necessary one. This is my Windbreaker from Cotopaxi, and I just love it. I love the colors. It makes me feel happy. I would layer this with my fleece if it was too windy, and so it gave me an extra layer of warmth and protection from the wind. I think it's pretty light. I think it's either 4 or 5 ounces. I'll put it on there for you, but I just loved it so much. I wasn't sure whether to bring it. I ended up bringing it. I don't know if I'm going to bring it on future ones. I'm trying to convince myself to just get a slightly smaller and lighter raincoat that I would wear in place of this, but it's just so cute. I don't know if I can get rid of it, but it's possible it may be going. And then I had my pajamas. So for my thermals that I would wear only at night for my pajamas, these were Under Armour, and they're the 4.0. They're the heaviest ones they make, I think. You can see the interior right here. I liked them. I would not be against getting something that's a little bit lighter next time, even if I did start in winter like that. I'm just not sure that I needed something that heavy, because on really cold nights, I ended up wearing every piece of clothing that I had anyway, and so maybe I could have gotten by with something a little lighter for that bottom layer. But I did like them. Okay, after that, I would normally have my bear bag against my back and the tent laid down horizontally right in front of that. Now, disclaimer, this is when the tent is dry. It would go inside the dry bag, but if it was damp or rainy, what I did, and it worked out pretty well, was I would move all of my stuff from one side pocket and put everything on just one single side. I'd have this free space. I would roll up my tent essentially in half, a very tall burrito, and I would stick it in through here and then shove the base of it in here, and that would allow the tent to kind of drain while it was wet and keep the wetness out from inside my pack. But this tent is the Zpacks Duplex. I did get the camo version for a little more privacy. You can see through it just a little bit less, I would hope. I will try to put a photo in there of the tent or a video so you can see what it looks like when it's pitched. I was very happy with this tent. I think I would probably stay with this one. It's got a ton of interior space, which was really nice. So you can see this is my tent, and I would also keep my tent stakes right in here. I put a little bit of reflective tape on it because as you're packing up in the early morning, before the light comes up, that is the last thing that I want to leave accidentally. So hopefully my headlamp will hit that reflective tape and remind me. So here are the tent stakes I got. I believe they're Zpacks also. And then following a Follow Bigfoot recommendation on YouTube, I got these alternate stakes for the doors, just to have a little more grip, but you can see that one of them bent. So I'm not sure. That was on a day when there was snow. I was shoving that in with my foot. I was surprised it bent. I didn't know it did. I didn't put that much pressure on it. Besides that one little situation, these worked really well. Okay, bear bag. Now, I would hang this every night, and if it was wet, it would not go in here. Instead, it would go on this side and be outside of the dry bag. This is a dry bag itself. I did notice that some moisture did get in it as it hung out in the wetness, but it's not brand new, so maybe that's part of the reason. I also put tape on, reflective tape on here. That way, when I forgot where I hung my bear bag in the morning and it was still dark, it would be easier to find it, and it worked really well. So what did I have in my bear bag? I did go stoveless, so I brought one empty peanut butter jar. For cold soaking, I would use that for things like couscous. That cold soaks really well. I'm I can't really remember what, there was one other thing that I cold soaked, but I can't remember what it was. And this, by the way, is by Zpacks, the Bear Bag Kit. I also have a rock bag, so you put a rock in here so you can throw it over a branch. And then I've got the, I think it's 50 feet of line in there. We were hanging 3 people's bags on one bear bag line, and my little Zpacks carabiner bent a little bit, I think. So I bought new carabiners. I hope these are a little more sturdy, and I probably won't try 3 people's bags on one line again. I got this tip from Darwin on the trail. He puts all of his food into individual bags by day. So in day number 1, I would have my breakfast, my lunch, and the lunch in the separate quart bag in here, so I could easily grab it and put it in the other pouch of my pack. And then dinner and 4 snacks for the road. And I would have 1 bag per day. I think I'm the only person I saw that actually did this method on the trail, but I really enjoyed it. I did notice that some people were running out of food on the trail, and this prevented me from having that happen. I had all my food allotted per day, and I knew what I could eat. It made it real simple, so it was worth the extra time to sort it out by day, I thought. For me, anyway. This is what I started lovingly referring to as my beauty bag, and it got heavier as time went on. I had less stuff in here to begin with. But I started falling apart, so I added some items to it. So I have these Neutrogena makeup remover towelettes. Not that I'm wearing makeup, but these were recommended by my dermatologist. So I would use 1 per day. Great first for the face, but also for any other areas that needed to be cleaned or stunk a little bit. So I would use them on armpits, feet, other areas as well. I carried 1 extra quart bag, and I used this to put, if you remember all those little toiletry type things that I kept in my hip belt pocket, I would put them in here at night. It would go in my beauty bag, and I would just move them back and forth. But I did want to be sure that these things that are smellables were included in my bear bag, so a bear did not visit me at night. Okay, back to the beauty bag. More wipes. I would keep them in a bag to keep them moist. I just had a second, so I would never run out. Hand soap. So I did originally carry this with my other toiletries in my hip belt pouch. I found I wasn't using it. Of course, this is far better than hand sanitizer, but when it's freezing out, I was not spending the time to lather up and put cold water on my hands. And I was careful about what I touched. So anyway, I carried this, so I would probably use it more in the spring. Toothbrush. One of those dealies. And travel size toothpaste. I did carry some floss because oral hygiene is important. Usually when we went to town, I would get a little travel size bottle of mouthwash and just use it at town and leave it and throw it out. I did carry a little thing of lotion because I'm a girl. I carried some extra ponytail holders, disposable razor because again I'm a girl. Found this really light comb at Ricky's in New York City. So, one thing my skin did require that I added to my bag is some face lotion. My face was, I have problem skin. It needed some face lotion. So unfortunately I did carry this whole huge thing. I am currently ordering some smaller containers. I just couldn't find anything. I should have pumped out like half of this bottle and just donated the rest because this is too much weight. But anyway, I'll have that figured out next time. Another thing I got that I picked up on is O'Keeffe's hand lotion. So here's what it really looks like. I know they've redone their packaging, so this is the older version, but just like the chapstick, I like to think that I am a connoisseur of lotions. This is the best stuff. If you have hands like mine, like I wasn't going to bring lotion, but my fingers literally started getting so dry and cracking, and it just kept getting worse and worse. This is the best stuff to use. I swear by it. I use it at home all the time. Anyway, I didn't want to carry this big, huge thing, so at the time I just kind of scooped it into a little bag and double bagged it, and so I would just use that. And I just kept all this stuff in my little gallon-sized beauty bag. Okay, underneath my food bag and my tent, I kept this Hyperlight Mountain Gear Pod. I think this is, yeah, the large version. I really like this. It's kind of just like a really large ditty bag for all my stuff. I'll show you what's in it. So one reason I like it is it's shaped to fit flat in your pack like this, and I really like the zipper. So I would have this in my tent, you know, just sitting on the ground. Okay, things I kept in here. I carried one extra pair of hiking underwear. I carried actually 2 pairs of just cotton underwear. I would have like a nighttime pair of underwear, which half the time I didn't change into because it was too cold. And I also kept a pair for wash day because I'm a grown woman, and if I want to carry one extra pair of underwear, I can. And I kept one extra pair of hiking socks, and you'll see the other version here in a second, the one that I would wear. That was just in case my first pair got wet. I have Zpacks Possum Down Socks, and I use these for sleeping. Now when it was really cold, oh, I liked those socks, by the way, they were good. When it was really cold though, I would pair them with these. These are Goosefeet Gear Down Booties, and they're overstuffed, they're pretty big. Again, I don't clinically have circulation issues, but I really do. I am the coldest person I've ever known, and so with this layering combo, it was really good. I would also carry, when it was cold, about 3 packs of hot hands, and so I would save these for nighttime. It's just a really great pick-me-up to be able to warm up your hands. Once my hands were warm, I would shove them down in these down booties and warm up my toes too. I also had a pillow. So this is a Nemo Philo Elite, I believe it's pronounced. And I really liked it. You can take this pillowcase off and take the little inflatable part out of it. So anyway, you can't really see it in there, but you can take the pillowcase off and wash it, which was nice. But I really love the texture of this pillowcase. Most pillows felt kind of gross putting my head on it, so I liked this pillowcase. I wish that it was a little bit taller personally, but not enough to make me want to get another pillow. Very happy with this thing. I kept a smaller ditty bag for some electronics. Let's see. I have my double charger. I would keep a cord for my cell phone. I had 2 cords that were really identical, but one I used to charge up. This was a Anker 10,000 battery pack. I liked it, used it every night. Since I was carrying the, I don't know where I put it, but the little tracker, the Garmin InReach, I carried 2 cords so that I could charge them up at the same time if I needed. What I didn't like about this guy was it didn't have enough juice for both my phone and my Garmin to keep them fully charged. So when I got to like day 4 or 5, I had to let people know I'm gonna leave my Garmin off because it ran out of juice. I would love to get the 20,000 version of this thing so that I don't have that issue, but these are so heavy already. I don't know if I can do it. So anyway, that's that. I did take some earplugs because when I sleep in a shelter, I wore them every night. It gave me a great night's sleep. I took some little postcard stamps for when I forgot to buy some. I did send postcards while out on the trail. I took one extra little baggie for any pills I might buy. There's a trick that you can use your trekking poles and rubber bands as kind of a tripod. I did not use it, but come on, these weigh nothing, so I brought them just in case. I did bring some binder clips. I find these helpful sometimes when I'm clipping things to my pack or to like a line on my tent for drying them. I brought a little footy particle. You know, this is just like a little nylon footy, just in case I came to a water source that was really clogged with debris. That would help me filter it a little bit more. This is a great invention here. not invention, but bread bags. E-Wolf, I forget his real name, but he gave a little tip of if you don't have camp shoes, which I didn't bring camp shoes in the winter because I already had enough winter weight. I was maybe gonna get them in the spring when I dropped some winter weight. But you can use bread bags. So let's say that you changed into your camp socks already, so my nighttime socks, but let's say my hiking shoes were wet from the rain, but I still had to walk around camp or whatever. Slip a bread bag on each foot, and there you go. You have a waterproof layer. And so even if your shoes are wet, it's no problem. You can use your regular shoes as your camp shoes. Worked out really well. Great tip. I kept one little bag with a tiny piece of sponge. The single wall tent, like the Zpacks Duplex, do have some condensation issues on the interior walls. And so when it's really bad, I can use this thing to suck up some of the moisture. Or if I get accidentally some moisture in the corner of my tent on the floor or something, I can use this to take care of that. I brought a little sawed-off toothbrush head in case I needed to scrub out any underwear, do some laundry on trail. This is a cooking bag that I found on eBay. It has a little flat bottom, so it has a flat bottom to it, so it can essentially stand up if you were to open it up. But guess what I use this for? If it's an emergency bag for going to the bathroom. So if it's freezing cold at night, or if it's raining cats and dogs, and the last thing I want to do in the entire world is get out of my tent, I can use my P style, go in this little baggie. I have heard tricks from the boys that you can go to the bathroom in your vestibule and not get it in your tent and not have to get out of your tent. So far, I have not been able to master that technique. So this was my backup. I also carried just a couple extra bags in case. I carried a little bag for labeled P style for cross-contamination purposes. So that in camp, unfortunately, I can't easily take this thing, the little bag off. So when I was carrying that around camp, because I did always try to get one last bathroom break in before going to bed, I would carry it around in here. I also carried a little, I don't know where I got this thing, but this is the same material that like umbrellas are made out of. And it's just a little shoulder bag. So I would use that in town to take whatever stuff I was carrying with me because I'm a girl. And I would also use it at camp. Like I would usually tent, but then I also wanted to hang out in the shelter before it was bedtime. So anything that I needed to take with me, like my water bottles, my pee style, I don't know what else, I can't remember, but I would use that to carry my stuff around camp rather than having 10 million things in my hand. I carried some extra bags. So when it's freezing, there's a couple items that you need to keep in your bag with you to keep them from freezing. I don't know if I can remember them all here, but I do know my water bottles. I would double bag them and put them in the foot of my sleeping bag. I would usually put my clothes in there too, because otherwise they're going to be pretty cold to put on in the morning. My hiking clothes. Batteries, so my excuse me, like this thing you would have to put in there. Garmin, because that will run your batteries down. Any spare batteries you have. Oh, and of course the handy dandy water filter. I'd always sleep with this in my pocket, sometimes hike with it in my pocket. Those are the things I can remember off the top of my head, but so I'd put everything that I needed to keep in my bag so as to not freeze in just little bags. And finally, yep, here is my repair/medical bag. Okay, let's look at the repair bag first. I would keep a little bit, this came with my tent, just to repair it in case I get any holes. I also brought a repair kit for my air pad, in case my filter crapped out or I accidentally froze it. It would no longer be effective. So I brought along little Aquatabs that I could treat my water with in an emergency. I brought one extra flip top cap because these do sometimes I can open this. Let's see. These do sometimes break right at the hinge. So I brought an extra. I didn't start with this, but I did buy some super glue. When my fingers started cracking really bad, I tried to fix them by putting super glue on them. And so I had one extra. I brought it with me because sometimes you need them for your shoes or such. I brought one sewing kit, and in the sewing kit, I have a little piece of cardboard where I wrapped up some thread. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I shoved 2 needles in the end of the cardboard. I got a couple buttons, whoa, a couple safety pins. I think that's all that's in there. That's my sewing kit. I brought one extra washer for the Sawyer. You can see there's a washer in there because God forbid I should lose that. It would become pretty ineffective. One small Bic lighter. I don't know what I only use this to light birthday cake candles in case I needed to build a fire. And a lot of people put what is this, duct tape on their trekking pole, but I carried it. You know what this roll is in here? This is from dog poop bags, like the rolled up versions. And so I just saved the little tube, which weighed pretty much nothing, and I rolled some duct tape on it. So that is the emergency kit. Or I'm sorry, the repair kit. This is my kind of health emergency kit. I have a little tick removal tool. Thankfully did not need to use that. In addition to my generic Tylenol, I also brought along generic Pepto-Bismol and generic anti-diarrheal pills. Fun. Thankfully did not. Is there a hole? There is a hole. My pills keep flying. Thankfully did not have to use that. I brought along alcohol prep pads, a couple of them, a couple Band-Aids, and the Leukotape I bought. Originally I had it all rolled up on itself, but a year later I came back to it and found that it got all gross and stuck to each other. And so I thought I'd try this version. So I got just, what is this stuff? It's like baking paper that you use in the kitchen. You can put it in the oven and stuff. So I just cut off little strips of Leukotape, put it on there, cut the baking paper to fit. So I have little individual pieces of Leukotape. And so far that's worked out really well. And finally, I have 2 things down at the very bottom of my pack, and that is my sleeping bag on one side and my air pad on the other. And originally I had, you'll see that the sleeping bag is in its own dry bag, and I eventually put the air pad in just a garbage bag, but I had put those on the bottom of my bag, not inside this dry bag, since they were in their own dry bags. I did that because I had a little more room up top here to roll down, but I just thought I'd see if it worked to have them inside the dry bag right now, and it does, so either method works. So this is my air pad. It's the Nemo Vector. Now, this is the insulated version. I did originally buy the non-insulated version because it's a little bit lighter, but I was in trying out my winter sleeping and my sleep system, I was finding myself cold, so I went ahead and bought a second version of the insulated one. And I also went for the long and wide version of this, and it is so nice. Let me blow this up for you so you can see how nice it is. But what's cool about this is the Vector is the same as the Tensor, except you have a foot pump. So you can use this to pump up your whole air pad, which is really nice. It only takes about a minute. I've heard a lot of people complaining about blowing up their air pads at the end of the day. So I went ahead and got this. It was either this or you may have seen the little battery powered pumps. That's not the right word for it, but it will fill it up for you without blowing into it too. And the weight difference was about the same. So I went with this. You're supposed to do it with your foot, but as I'm sure you know, you can't really stand all the way up in your tent, so I just use my hands. Here it is fully blown up, and you can see how nice and big it is compared to my shoes as an example. Nice and long, nice and wide. I did try the other one that everyone's really likes. What is it? I forget now. That yellow one. You all know what I'm talking about, but I did not like the crinkle factor. and I'm a side sleeper. So I really enjoyed being able to toss and turn and not fall off the edge of the pad because I have some extra room here. And this thing, I want to say that's 3 inches. I guess you could consider the extra size of this to make it a luxury item-ish, in that I could get by with something smaller and maybe a little less heavy, but gosh, do I love it. So it's staying. I'll swap it out for the uninsulated version when it gets less cold. And the final item in my pack is my sleeping bag. I have it inside a dry bag. This is a Zpacks. Some people stuff their sleeping bag just in the bottom of their pack liner, so it's dry, but it fills in all the cracks and crevices of their pack, all the corners. But this thing is so big that I kind of like the dry bag. It serves as a compression sack to keep it nice and as small as possible. Let me get it out of there for you. I do have an Enlightened equipment quilt that's 20 degrees that I was trying to supplement with bag liners and all kinds of stuff. In the end, it turns out it just was not warm enough. So I bit the bullet and I got a super warm bag. I believe this bag is rated to 0 degrees. I had it overstuffed, which means it's -10. But given that I'm a woman and how really cold I am, that would keep me comfortable down to about 10 degrees, I think. And that, of course, is still wearing just about every dry item that I had on in layers, but it's got a really nice neck baffle to keep drafts out. It's got nice cinches for both the little hood and for the neck part. And a nice long zipper. Anyway, this kept me warm and toasty. I was very happy with it for winter conditions. And because of its color, it makes you look like a little green worm when you're in it. Sorry, that's just me being weird and being a worm. And finally, these are the items of clothing that I would wear each day. Socks. I have darn tough crew socks. Like them very much. Originally, my plan was to swap socks each day. Swap socks every day. Turns out if they weren't too stinky and they weren't wet, I would just keep wearing the same pair. Call me gross. I did take a pair of Gaiters. These are controversial because you don't really need them, but I kind of liked them. I think these are Ultras. They have the little gaiter trap on the back of the Ultra shoes. There's a little bit of Velcro that you can stick right there for the back of it. Keeps them on. So Gaiters just keep any extra twigs or leaves or rocks from getting into between your shoe and your sock. And these are the Ultra Lone Peaks. They are 0 drop. I did like these shoes. I've had the previous version, the 3 or the 3.5, and had no issues with them whatsoever. I did have some pain on the bottoms of my feet, kind of like at my arches, as we started hiking more miles. I think we just increased mileage too soon for my feet because they did eventually cure themselves. I thought it could have been plantar fasciitis for a while, but it never hurt in the morning. Morning, I was always great, and it was just about midway through the end of the day it would start hurting. I tried plantar fasciitis insoles, did not help. So I just went back to my old insoles in the shoes, and feet actually corrected themselves. So I will probably try a different kind of that shoe. The Ultra, are they Cumulus? Whatever ones have a lot of cushion in the bottom, I'll probably just try those next for fun and see how I like them. Okay, clothes. So these underwear are just little Target, sporty, quick dry stuff. Sports bra. I think this guy is Victoria's Secret, not because I'm trying to be fancy, but that's just what ended up working well for me. This is my shirt by Odlo, I think it's said. I think it's pronounced. I believe this is like a biking company that makes this, but I, again, buy for color, so I really liked that one. Have y'all noticed yet? I'm a sucker for neon accents. Outdoor research pants. I liked these a lot. They're a little bit water resistant. I think I bought one size too small, or I wasn't drying these, so after a while they got kind of stretched out and I would have to use this as a belt which I'm not a huge fan of. But I think if I were to put them in the dryer or even bought the next size down, they'd fit a little better, but I really liked them. And for my fleece, I would hike in this if it was cold. This is Marmot. I liked this a lot. Again, neon accents, yes please. It's this technical fleece, grid, whatever that's called. But that worked out really well. I would also carry in my pocket here a little snack size Ziploc, because the majority of the time while I was winter hiking, I had my water filter in the bag in my pocket because it cannot freeze, and so if I kept it against my body, all would be well. Once you use the filter, then it's got water in it, and while you shake the water out, still it's got some water in it, so the Ziploc protected it from getting my clothes wet. Wow, so that was much more lengthy than I thought this would be. Hope it was helpful. I know that I'll probably reference this at some point. I hope you all are doing well again. See y'all next time. Take care.